These are resurfaced emails back from 2010 and 2011 of Hillary Clinton speaking to her close political advisors regarding AIPAC, Israel, Palestine, and the power of the Israel lobby in Washington, D.C. I combed through all of the previously released emails and pulled out things specifically related to these topics. And now, with everything going on in the world, it sheds new light of just how powerful AIPAC has always been. So I pulled out a few dozen emails here that I'm going to go ahead and show you. The first one is pretty shocking, and it shows that even within political circles, Democratic leaders knew just how right-wing AIPAC was, and yet they all still sided with it. This is being sent from Hillary Clinton's close political advisor, Sidney Blumenthal, and it's regarding an AIPAC speech. This memo does not address specific policy initiatives, and it goes on. And again, Blumenthal now is telling Hillary Clinton, here's what I've written, here's what options that I've written to you. Perhaps the most controversial, I would argue, something that you should do is, while praising AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, remind it in a subtle but also direct way as you can that it does not have monopoly over American Jewish opinion. Bibi is stage managing U.S. Jewish organizations. They're just directly flat out saying it. And neocons and the religious right and whomever else he can muster against the administration. AIPAC itself has become an organ of the Israeli right, specifically Likud. By acknowledging J Street, you give them legitimacy, credibility, and create room within the American Jewish community for debate, supportive of the administration's pursuit of the peace process. Just by mentioning J Street in passing, AIPAC becomes a point on the spectrum, not the controller of the spectrum. I suggest the way how to do it is below. So here we are seeing a direct internal conversation between one of Hillary Clinton's close friends and herself regarding an AIPAC speech she should be giving. And they're acknowledging, and he's directly acknowledging that although they're Democratic politicians, that AIPAC is basically Netanyahu's arm into the United States political system. And they have no problem saying that internally. This was, again, back in 2010, this email was released. So it's pretty shocking to see that AIPAC itself has become an organ of the Israeli right, specifically Likud. Them flat out saying that, while knowing they're left-wing politicians here in the United States, and of course Hillary Clinton, backed by millions and millions of dollars from the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. And the rest of the language goes on talking about how she should be phrasing her speech about AIPAC, and it says again towards the end, only through the marketplace of ideas. This is him giving her an idea of how she should include this in his speech, just to make it seem like they are open to all opinions across the Israeli spectrum. Only through the marketplace of ideas will sound policies to help resolve complicated and seemingly intransient problems be developed. This administration values everybody's views. They are important. You are important. We welcome views across the spectrum, from AIPAC to J Street. All these views are legitimate and must be heard and considered. So again, this is just kind of showing just what's going on within Hillary Clinton's own circle, even back in 2010. And imagine how much has happened since then. Now, here's another document that I want to show you, and it goes on showing the relationship that Blumenthal and Hillary Clinton had with each other, specifically regarding AIPAC and how he would assist her continuously in writing these speeches, which is just pretty interesting to read. I have to speak tomorrow at AIPAC. How and should I use this? This is from Hillary Clinton to Sid. And there's a response back saying, Yuri Avneri, the Israeli analyst and activist, is privately circulating this analysis today. One consequence, blank cannot run as a Republican. And he's just forwarding her an article that was previously written. What's so interesting about this article and what it has to do with AIPAC is actually right here. Netanyahu gave the order to mobilize all the reserves in America and to put forward all the diplomatic tanks. All Jewish organizations in the United States were commanded to join the campaign. AIPAC blew the shofar and ordered its soldiers, the senators and congressmen, to storm the White House. It seems that the decisive battle has joined. The Israeli leaders were certain that Obama would be defeated. This is when Obama was going back and forth, trying to have a deal with Iran. Okay, and of course, Netanyahu completely objected to the idea of the United States having any sort of neutral relationship or a low pressure relationship with Iran. Netanyahu's always wanted to push the United States to have aggressive policy towards Iran. This is the first time, and again, this is coming from an Israeli analyst and activist. So it's nice to see the Israelis saying what we all know, okay, that our congressmen are being bought out and they're handlers by AIPAC. Tucker Carlson had Thomas Massie say that publicly during an interview he did on his show, and he got condemnation by AIPAC. Yet when Israeli analysts publicly go out and write articles stating Netanyahu gave the order and AIPAC blew and ordered its soldiers, the senators and congressmen, to storm the White House, AIPAC ordered its soldiers, basically just flat out saying that our congressmen are pawns to AIPAC, that AIPAC controls our congressmen. They're the soldiers of AIPAC. No problem when an Israeli says it, yet when Americans bring up the fact that our politicians are bought out by AIPAC, there's something wrong with that. When Thomas Massie goes out publicly, Congressman Thomas Massie goes out publicly and says that there's an issue, but when they say it themselves, that's somehow okay. And what's so shocking about this is being forwarded to Hillary Clinton. This is happening. Hillary Clinton is reading this information within Hillary Clinton's own private circles. These sort of things are being circulated, and she knows, and yet she still backed millions and millions of dollars by it. And she was serving in Barack Obama's administration. She knew that she was a puppet of this sort of thing. She knew that what AIPAC's power was like, how powerful the Israel lobby was, how Israeli analysts are laughing at us, telling us where were their soldiers for Netanyahu's extension in the United States. And yet she still went along with it. So she knew very actively what she was doing. Here's another email that I found, and this is being sent from Hillary Clinton's chief of staff to herself back November 14th of 2010 again. And she's forwarding Hillary Clinton a Reuters article, Netanyahu presents U.S. settlement plan to cabinet. And in this, it's a Jerusalem Post. It's a Reuters article that was from Jerusalem at the time. And what it's showing, and it's being sent to Hillary Clinton, it says that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu presented a U.S. plan to his cabinet that would freeze West Bank settlements for 90 days in return for diplomatic and security incentives. Washington wants Israel to renew and freeze on settlement building in the occupied West Bank and efforts to resume peace talks with Palestinians, who in September halted negotiations after just a few weeks when Israel refused to extend a 10-month settlement freeze. Under the U.S. proposal, if Israel extended the freeze, Washington would pledge not to seek further extensions and to veto any attempt at the United Nations to force a unilateral peace plan. Now, this isn't anything shocking. This was a Reuters article that was written at the time. I would assume that this article is still live, so anybody could find this. But knowing that this is being circulated to Hillary Clinton and back, and what it's telling us is that the United States thinks that forcing Israel to do the bare damn minimum, which is stop building settlements, is now something that we view, or that Hillary Clinton viewed as at the time, as extending and forming any sort of negotiation, that they would then go ahead and veto UN resolutions against Israel simply for doing the bare minimum. And that's what the United States considered direct negotiations between the Israelis and Palestinians. And Hillary Clinton is seemingly reading these sort of things, regardless of what her views are on it. We don't really know. She didn't respond back to this specific thing, but we know she's seeing this. Her party is seeing this. Internally, they're seeing it. They're circulating this stuff. They're clearly making these decisions, and they think that this is a negotiation tactic that's going to lead to a, quote, fair peace proposal. Okay, if this was happening in 2010, and just look at the difference from 2010 to 2025, when there's no sort of negotiations, the United States doesn't even try to act like it's a fair negotiator in any sort of, quote, peace process at all. Here's another document at the time. This one is actually pretty shocking, especially when you look back to see how much of a stranglehold the word anti-Semitism had on our elected politicians, even when things that were being stated were truly not hate towards any specific group of people, but were rather just blunt policy statements geopolitical statements on what's actually happening on the region, and it has nothing to do with hate, but how the use of the word anti-Semitism by the Israeli lobby and Israeli lobby affiliates were used to scare politicians, to suppress freedom of speech, and to put politicians in a gridlock to where they have to implement certain foreign policy decisions and vote in certain ways, rather be accused of being an anti-Semite. So again, this is being sent to people within Hillary Clinton's administration, and it's regarding a UN ambassador, and a lot of this is of course redacted. And what it's saying is that here we're seeing Hillary Clinton be told that the U.S. ambassador to Belgium should be distanced from the White House, and the White House should make a statement that they condemn the UN ambassador to Belgium's words, because the UN ambassador to Belgium at the time went out publicly and he stated that there should be a difference between true anti-Semitism and how the Muslims are mad at the Jews because of Israel's treatments of the Palestinians. Here's the direct quote that the Israel lobby then went on full force, telling Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, that they should absolutely condemn anti-Semitism. A distinction should be made between traditional anti-Semitism, which should be condemned, and Muslim hatred for Jews, which stems from the ongoing conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. Gutman reportedly told those gathered, going on to argue that an Israeli-Palestinian peace treaty will significantly diminish Muslim anti-Semitism. Please, just objectively reading that, is anything about this incorrect? It's just subjective. Anybody could go to the Middle East right now, and they can go to Muslim countries, and they can ask them where all of this quote-unquote anti-Semitism rises from, hatred towards Israel, and they will tell you flat out directly it's the treatment of Palestinians, the fact that Palestinians have been displaced from their land, how they have no freedom, how they don't have their own independence. Yet, when we have a U.S. ambassador just state that publicly, which is just point blank true, this received immediate condemnation, and not just condemnation by these pro-Israel officials, but pressure on the Obama administration at the time to distance themselves from him and state, instead of the fact that Israel is badly treating Palestinians, instead of addressing that, instead directing the conversation to condemning anti-Semitism. Okay, so this is what was said at the time. In reaction to the comments and subsequent uproar they caused, the White House released a statement distancing itself from Gutman's words. We condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms, and that there is never any justification for prejudice against the Jewish people or Israel. Read the statement which was sent over the weekend to Jewish leaders. There is never justification for prejudice against the Jewish people or Israel. There is really never justification for prejudice against Israel? They didn't just say the Jewish people, they said or Israel. Muslim countries, Arab countries, Palestinians have no justification for prejudice against Israel, while Israel is actively stealing their land, destroying them, wiping out their culture, wiping out their communities. There is no justification for prejudice against a foreign country. What? And that was an actual released White House statement, because a U.S. ambassador to Belgium just released the honest truth, which was the fact that the large reason that these Muslim countries are harboring animosity towards Israel is because of the fact that it's because of its treatment towards Palestinians. That's somehow now an anti-Semitic statement, and it's being circulated within Hillary Clinton's emails that this is all going on. Obviously, very, very well informed. Obviously, also taking part in making these statements. It's not like there's some other part of the White House that's making these statements. She's very much so involved in this. She's reading, she knows what's going on, and it's being circulated internally because there seems to be a sense of fear internally of making sure they're stating the right words. You can tell just from the first email that I showed you guys, okay, when Hillary Clinton's political advisor is helping her out with a speech for AIPAC. Now, this isn't anything new. You're always going to hear about political advisors and individuals helping with speeches, sharing your speech draft, getting feedback on it. That's nothing crazy. But the fact that they had to have an entire email thread just dedicated to mentioning whether or not J Street should be included because they want to make sure that it doesn't seem like AIPAC's grip on US policy is the only way that American pro-Israel and Jewish communities should think. That's how much of a concern it was to make sure they correctly tiptoe on AIPAC. Because of course she's bought out. And because of course they knew, and they still know, that AIPAC is, as they said, an organ for the Israeli right, specifically Likud. Okay, that is absolutely wild. That's absolutely wild to know that these Democratic politicians who are apparently left wing are still working as an extension of the right wing Likud party of Israel under Netanyahu's heat back in 2010. Are you kidding me? So here's another email that I wanted to show you guys. And it's again from Blumenthal, from Sidney Blumenthal, Hillary Clinton's political advisor and friend. And this was also sent on March 17th back in 2010. And he's regarding Israel, a couple of things. And the email goes on and it says, in case you haven't seen, this is the fully articulated view of the Netanyahu government and Likud about the, quote, crisis. The New Republic, which is a U.S. media outlet, is a preferred outlet for the highest level Likud neocon propaganda. Michael Oren, a channel for Israeli intel, I believe he was the UN ambassador to Israel at the time. A channel for Israeli intel, was a frequent contributor in the past. On a lower level was Michael Leedon. So was Michael Leedon when he was trafficking disinformation. The New Republic was critical in undermining Carter when he pressed Belgian, I believe that might be a misspelling. Israeli intel used Leedon and Frank Thing, and it goes on and on and on. And it talks about how badly exacerbated the New Republic is, again, the media outlet in the United States. And they're going on internally saying, we feel like this media outlet is basically just the Likud party. It's literally just Netanyahu's propaganda arm in the United States. So there's another case here that we're reading about, the fact where we know our elected politicians know we have U.S. media outlets and they're working as propaganda arms for Likud. For Likud. They're not saying propaganda arms for the GOP. They're not saying propaganda arms for the Democrats. They're just straight up saying we have U.S. media outlets working as propaganda arms for a political party in Israel. And we're just chill with this. This is somehow normalized. And it goes on, and he's basically here forwarding Hillary Clinton some letters, or some articles that were written in this outlet, just so that way she can go ahead and take a look at it. So this is kind of the sort of thing that's going on in their email thread. And now when we're reading all of this, it's just giving us a glimpse of how much the chokehold has always been on U.S. politics, what Hillary Clinton's thoughts were on AIPAC even back then. Okay, and I have some Haaretz articles that I also want to show you that are also written. Now this is fast forward to 2015, and there was a Haaretz article written about Hillary Clinton and how she's condemning the BDS movements. There's an advertisement here, but it's basically the BDS movements boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. And this was because of course, Israel's expansion into the West Bank, Israel's treatments of the Palestinians, and Hillary Clinton at the time, back in 2015, her stance hasn't changed on this whatsoever. She stated that the BDS movement targeting Israel was counterproductive, and she's alarmed by the BDS movement because of the fact that the only way true peace is ever going to be resolved between the Israelis and Palestinians is direct negotiations. And she thinks that this unfairly targets Israel. Okay. Of course, she is having internal dialogue with people within her staff regarding all of these actions, regarding AIPAC, how she should advance about certain things. And she says it's only through direct negotiations. Okay. While at the same time, working with her staff about how they should handle AIPAC, knowing that AIPAC has an army within Congress that will just follow its heed. This is an Israeli analyst again saying that they have an army at their disposal. What a slap in the face to the American people. Genuinely, what a slap in the face. Imagine for a second any other country said that all of our elected officials are their army in America. Imagine Russia went ahead publicly. Putin just says our army is the American Congress, and that's somehow normalized. They're laughing about it. They're mocking us about it. They're just going out saying it, and we're just supposed to sit there like, yeah, we're cucked. It's okay. It's okay. And that's just how it is. America is Israel's lapdog, and that's fine. And they laugh at it, and that's okay when they do it, when Israeli analysts do it. But when American officials and when American public figures go out publicly and say our politicians are bought out, Israel controls America, that's now accused of anti-Semitism. It's okay when they say it, but we can't say the same thing that everybody can clearly tell. And at the same time, this is all going on, and she knows that it's a right-wing propaganda arm of Likud. She's bought out, what, $9 million by that same party that mocks her, that's mocking America for just basically controlling us. She's like, yeah, I'm bought out. It's okay. Maybe I can just, at least have freedom in the speeches that I give at AIPAC conferences and state that I care about also J Street. At least I have some freedom of mobility there. That's okay. So I'm not fully bought out. I can at least say one line differently. That's kind of what they think is negotiations. Telling Israel back in 2010, we're going to go ahead and veto any UN legislation against you simply for you doing the bare minimum, which is freezing settlements, which are illegal by international law anyways. They shouldn't be there. But here you go. Good boy. You froze settlements. You did the bare damn minimum. And now we're going to back you unrelentingly at the United Nations. And she thinks that's some sort of good negotiation tactic. It's been U.S. policy since the very beginning on both the left and the right, by the way, conservatives as well. Everything changed after Trump's first administration, but even conservatives as well. The George Bush administration, it's always been U.S. stance viewing the illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank as illegitimate. U.S. policy has always been that way. George H.W. Bush, every single Republican and Democratic president in U.S. history has always viewed things that way, of course, separate from the Trump administration. So even back then, there was still this sort of chokehold. There's a lot more emails that I can go ahead and show you on a different video. But what we're seeing here is that AIPAC's grip on U.S. politics has always been going on since John F. Kennedy's assassination, where he was trying to get them to register as a foreign agent, and they refused. And ever since Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency, AIPAC has had this sort of grip over our politics, and they've slowly entrenched itself. And I mean, you could have just seen recently when Gavin Newsom went out publicly and he was asked again about AIPAC, and he just froze up because he's so scared to even say anything in criticism of them, because of the fact that they have an entire army in Congress that's ready to go and do whatever they say. Anyways, guys, that's really everything I wanted to show for this video. I do have a lot more emails pulled up regarding AIPAC and Israel, and some old John F. Kennedy documents I was able to find as well. So if you found this video interesting, make sure to click the subscribe button below and give me a thumbs up as well. It helps my channel grow and reach more people. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.